Hello, welcome back to my channel. Over the past week, I have been reading you guys' favorite books of 2020 so far. I asked you guys over on Instagram a couple of weeks ago what books you guys have given 5 stars to this year, what books have been your favorite that you've read, because I have not had that much success with reading this year. Volume, yes, I have read quite a few books, but I haven't read very many books that have really spoken to me, that have been long-lasting, all-time favorites. So I figured what better thing to do than enlist the help of you guys. So like I said, I asked you guys on Instagram, give me your recommendations for your favorite books of 2020 so far. I picked the most popular ones and I read them this week. So the 4 books that I'm going to be reading in this video are Get a Life, Chloe Brown by Talia Hibbert, House in the Cerulean Sea by TJ Klune, Beach Read by Emily Henry, and The Poet X by Elizabeth Acevedo. So again, if you want to hear me talk about any of these books, keep watching. Okay, let's ignore the mountainous region popping up on my nose. It will probably erupt sometime this week. We're just very thrilled about it. But I started Beach Read by Emily Henry. I was unsure of what book I wanted to start first for this video, but I was kind of in a romance mood and I thought, fuck it, let's pick this one up. Am I regretting that choice? A little bit. I am 36 pages in and I was hoping for a good time and I'm just simply not having one. It is very slow and depressing and I can't tell if it's just feeling that way because I'm a little bit tired today and it's a Monday, or if this book is actually just going to be like that. I've heard such mixed things about this book. I feel like so many people raved about it before it came out and then right when it came out. Then I've also seen people not like it. Like my girl Nitty from Nitty Reads, she did not like this book. She gave it 1 star. Does not give me high hopes at all. This story, if you didn't know, it's about 2 writers who end up switching genres. Like one writes literary fiction, the other writes romance. They decide to switch genres to get out of this sort of like writing slump that they're in. And thus far, we have not really gotten to them even meeting. I think we're like right before the meet cute. Is it a meet cute that happens? I guess we'll see. I'm just so unimpressed and I don't... With the title like Beach Read, I just assumed that it was going to be upbeat, and I know people said that there was like some not harder topics, but that this wasn't like super sunshiny. I'm just not loving it. I'm gonna try to withhold judgment until I get to like 100 pages. But right now, it's just not doing it for me. It's not bringing that zest. So once I get 100 pages in, I'll update you guys again and let you know if this is picking up, but I think you guys might just be wrong. I don't know. I feel like the lighting just keeps getting worse and worse. Okay, I got to page 100 in Beach Read, and I was fully prepared to say that I still didn't enjoy it, but the last page that I read has me a little bit hot and bothered, so I am pleased. I don't know how well I described this book in the first place, but essentially it is about January and Gus, and I said that they were gonna like switch genres, you know, which they ended up doing in the pages that I just read. But January is in this like Michigan town because her dad left her a house, and he left her this house that he shared with his mistress essentially, and January was not aware of the fact that her father had a mistress. She thought that her parents were in love, so that complicates things. It complicates her relationship with romance, and that's kind of why she has decided to take a break from writing romance. Gus, we don't really know much about. We don't really know why he's all dark and twisty, but he's hot from what I can tell, so I like that. I kind of like the way that he's characterized, although I will say January is kind of pissing me off. Like, what's happened to her would fuck up her relationship with like herself and her family, etc. Like, whatever, I get it. But she's just very angry and she's like taking it out on people in a way that I don't think is appropriate. So it's kind of hard to sympathize with her. However, I do like Gus. I think he's interesting. He sounds cute, so I like him, but I'm hoping January gets more bearable as the book goes on. I was gonna say if I could rate this right now, I'd give it a 3 star, but I don't even know that I would try to rate it right now because it's just, I don't know how to feel about it. I am liking what's happening though, I guess, or like the direction that this book is going. Essentially, since they're both writing in each other's genres, they're taking each other on like dates kind of to show the other person how to write better in their genre. So this first date, Gus takes January to go interview a former cult member or a former cult member's sister, which was interesting. And then she's gonna take him on like cheesy romantic dates so he can understand how to write romance, so that's fun. I don't really know what else to say about this book. The weather is so shitty outside. I'm wondering if that's like coloring my reading mood. I wish I were one of those people like Kayla who could like not be affected by my environment or my like mental health when I read, but that's just not the case. Like, that definitely affects and colors my judgment of books. However, I do think had I read this at a different time, I wouldn't necessarily have gobbled it up because I don't know that I loved the way this started. It's a little too depressing for me. Kind of just prefer lighthearted books, but I guess I'll read to page 200 and let you guys know what I think. God damn it. This is actually kind of cute, alright? I admit it, it's kind of cute. I am 132 pages in,
and I just finished a book that has similar vibes. Okay, not similar vibes at all, but the hero reminds me a lot of Gus. The series is by Penny Reed with like beards and stuff. I don't know. They all have cheesy names. I finished the first one, and Dwayne, the hero in that book, reminds me a lot of Gus. It's this very specific type of hero that I fuck heavily with. Like a little bit dark and broody, but not like an asshole. Not a complete asshole, at least. Has like secretly been pining for the girl like forever. That's the vibes I'm getting in this. He has admitted that he's read all of January's romances that she's written, even memorized the dedication for the first book, which like, we love to see it. Now, if January could be less insufferable, I think I would be very much enamored with the story. So it's like I don't want to like this book. Like I do want to like it, but I was very okay with not liking it and being like contrary. I like being a contrarian, okay? I admit that it's good. I'm gonna keep reading. Okay, so it is Thursday. I had to take 2 full days to decompress and read Midnight Sun. And I think that might potentially be coloring my judgment of this book, because obviously this book is never gonna measure up to that one. And I have had and still have the biggest book hangover of my life after reading that book, which I'm not doing a vlog on, so don't ask. But I finished Speech Read, all right? And let's talk about it briefly, because I want to talk about books that I actually like. So I'm hoping the next ones I actually do like. I'm gonna give this book 3 stars. I didn't hate it. I didn't think it was terrible. I just really felt nearly nothing for the story and the characters. I really liked Gus, I think, as I told you guys previously, but January just never really grew on me. She wasn't a horrible character, and I knew she was going through a lot and her feelings were justified, but just the overall tone of this book I just didn't like, I think, is really the long and short of it. I felt like it was way too melancholy for the kind of story that it was supposed to be, and I didn't care. And I feel like that so often happens to me when I read traditionally published romance, especially that kind of borders on the women's fiction side of things. I mean, this is definitely more of a romance than women's fiction, but how do I say this without being rude? Like the same sorts of bland characters that Christina Lauren do. Like nothing horrible, can be fun in the moment, but it's not something that I'm gonna carry with me forever. It's not memorable. Once I unhaul this book, I'm never probably going to think about it again until it, you know, inevitably pops up in the Goodreads Choice Awards in the category of romance, and I'll wonder, you know, why it wins. I'm being so salty. I'm so sorry. I didn't love it. I wish I had, because I know so many of you guys did love it. And again, I can understand it because Gus was so lovable, and I think Emily Henry did a really good thing with Gus as a character, because I was thinking about this as I was reading, but I feel like I don't want to speak universally for anyone, right? But for a lot of women, the idea, especially if you were like maybe a little nerdy in like high school, middle school, or didn't have like the easiest time with romantic partners, the idea that someone has been like holding a secret crush on you for like years and years and years, and that was someone you found attractive too, and they tell you that they had a crush on you and that they're obsessed with you, like that's kind of every girl's dream. I mean, maybe not every girl's dream, you know what I mean? So I think she captured that very well in the fact that Gus seemed to be carrying a flame, holding a torch, whatever they say, for January for so many years. It was really sweet, and I think that was really what I loved most about this story, but everything else was just sort of lackluster to me. I mean, it's not really much of a spoiler because this is a romance and like they all kind of end the same way, but like I've never felt less when reading a proposal. Like I just did not care. It's probably not the best book to sandwich Midnight Sun in between. Like I read half of this, then Midnight Sun, and then this, but like I don't know, is it the book? Is it me? It's probably both. Trad romance is like such a hit or miss for me, and it was just fine. It was not terrible, but it was just utterly forgettable. I really am suffering though from this book hangover. It has been quite miserable. I'll talk about it more. I'm doing like a summer wrap up, I've decided, of the 3 months of reading that I have done, but Midnight Sun wrecked me. I really didn't expect to enjoy it as much as I did. It was so romantic and sweet, and I loved it. I'm not doing a dedicated video because I do recognize that the series is problematic and that it is harmful to the Quileute community. I'll leave a link to some initiatives to get the tribe to higher ground, and like their schools and buildings and stuff to higher ground so they don't get hit by a tsunami. But I did just want to mention here that that's kind of coloring my attitude, I guess, towards these books, even though I was like, I'm gonna find some new 5-star reads. I'm in a weird headspace right now, having a super depressive episode, and I have a horrible book hangover. But I'm hoping that this next book, which is actually just conveniently right here, will cure that for me, because this is one of my favorite authors, and I don't think I've seen a single person give this under 5 stars. I'm gonna start The House in the Cerulean Sea by TJ Klune. Very excited and very glad so many of you guys put this in my put this in the reply, I guess, because I've been dying to pick this up, and I don't want to say I didn't have a reason to previously, but like I obviously like to read books for videos, and so the fact that you guys were like, read this one, it means a lot. So anyway, I'm gonna get started on this. I don't know how far I'm gonna get. I might not start it tonight, but I'm quite excited. I need something just like soft and potentially not super romantic. Like, I know there's romance in this, but thanks for listening to me. Okay, I'm kind of rocking the Marilla Cuthbert fucking bun action today, but we're not going to talk about it. It's Saturday, it's like 6:49, and I'm supposed to be posting this video tomorrow morning. Don't know if that's going to happen because I still have 3 books to read for this video. But I am about halfway done with The House in the Cerulean Sea by TJ Klune. I don't know why I'm holding my hand up. I have the book right next to me, but I'm feeling lazy. I started reading this physically, and while I was enjoying it, I don't actually like the physical copy of this particular book. I feel like the font's too small and I don't like the pages, and that is so nitpicky, but I just decided that I would go ahead and pick up the audiobook version because I'd heard really good things, and I'm really glad that I did because the narrator is doing all of the voices so excellently, and it's just a great reading or like listening experience. So, oh god, what do I even say about this book? How do I describe it? I will say some books, I don't know if you guys feel this way, but I feel like I hear a lot of people talking about them and I hear the synopsis, so I feel like I know what the book's about, but I don't really know what the book is about. And so sometimes I try to like explain in my own words on my channel to hopefully like entice you in a way that maybe other people haven't been doing that like for a book. I don't know if I'm making any sense. This book is exactly what people said it was going to be, but it's also quite a bit different. So I think that's sort of like my opinions thus far. So this book is about a guy named Linus, and he is working for a government agency that essentially checks in on magical children because there are a bunch of different magical children in this world. It's basically, from what I can tell, the United States, or you know, just like the regular world with magical beings as well. Magical creatures are discriminated against in this society, and the children are usually orphaned and left in homes. So he travels around to different orphanages for magical children and makes sure that they are adhering to the sort of guidelines set forth by this bureau, I guess you could say. He travels around, and I guess he makes quite an impression on one of the masters. I think masters are like the people that run the homes, right? He makes an impression on one of the masters, and the master, I think, tells the board for this like magical bureau, and the magical bureau was like, yo, what I think you should do is go and be our spy, essentially. I mean, not covert, because like the master of this new home that he's going to check out knows he's coming and like knows what his objective is. But Linus is set to go to this magical orphanage that no one knows about. It's set on the sea in a small town, and he is to go and make sure that everything is running smoothly because the master of this house is a new guy and he has some unorthodox ways of running things. So Linus goes and he meets all of these magical children, and he meets, I think Arthur is his name, the master of the home for the kids. So it's good. I don't know, it is weird, I guess, reading a hyped book, right? Because you go in with all of these expectations and you think you know everything going in, but you don't necessarily know everything, and I think that's kind of what I'm experiencing right now. I'm trying to think of what exactly was not my expectation. It's definitely upbeat, which I was expecting, which I'm very thankful for. I definitely wanted something a little bit more like wholesome after reading some of the things that I've been reading recently, so that definitely is fitting the bill in that regard. And I do think that the story as a whole is just kind of heartwarming. I don't think that I'm reading as critically as I would like for this book. This is one that I'm definitely going to reread because I feel like it's got some kind of universal messages despite it being about magical creatures, magical children. There's a lot of talk about happiness, putting yourself out there, what you should do, how you should treat others. There's just a lot of like universal life lessons that I am appreciating that are sprinkled in. I feel like I'm not doing a good job at describing this book, but I am enjoying it. I needed to get about halfway before I could really tell you guys what the book was about and also how I was enjoying it, because again, I feel like I've heard so many great things about this book, and yet I started it and I was like, this is fine. It didn't have any objections. The characterization is great. I've read TJ Klune books before, so I knew it was going to be good, but I wasn't like completely sold until I got about halfway. So I'm liking it. I'm loving Linus and Arthur's interactions with the children, and yeah, I'm just excited to get more into this book. I will probably just update you guys when I'm finished though, because I don't know, do you ever just read a really good book and you just don't have much to say? Because that's sort of where I'm at, and yet I was able to ramble for almost 5 fucking minutes about the first half of this book. So anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and finish this book, and then I will update you guys, and then we can get into Get a Life, Chloe Brown. Okay, so I'm back back, my hair is looking the exact same that it did before, but it is much later. I did just finish The House on the Cerulean Sea by TJ Klune, and I think I'm gonna give this one 4 stars. I really enjoyed it. I do, however, think the format of the book and also just like my mental state at the moment is sort of impacting my view of the book. It's one that I definitely want to read again, and that's not to say that I didn't enjoy it this time around. It's more so that I think there are some kind of deeper themes and messages that I want to revisit or pay closer attention to when I reread this book eventually. So 4-star with definitely like the potential for it to be a 5-star when I reread it. So it was really good. I just loved the messages and the themes more than anything. I really enjoyed the characters as well. I enjoyed that more than anything. Like, I enjoyed pretty much everything in this book quite a bit. I especially really liked Linus as a character too. I thought that he was someone who was very complex as a character. He was kind of soft spoken and a rule follower at the beginning, but he does grow and develop and change into someone who is willing to question things without being completely different than he was at the start of the story, if that makes sense. I feel like too often people go from being like super naive to like bold assholes at the end of a book, and I like that Linus really stayed true to himself and what he wanted, and I really liked his relationship with Arthur, how that developed over the course of the story, and just, yeah, the message that like you can have whatever life you want, you just have to be brave enough to go after it. I loved that. It's a great book. I really liked it, and I shouldn't have been surprised. I'm not surprised really that this book was so great, because I've read other books by TJ Klune, and I expect greatness from him. I think he does just an amazing job. There's nothing that I've read by him that I've been like, this is just okay. But overall, I really enjoyed this book, and I definitely understand why it is a lot of you guys' favorite of 2020 so far. But now I think we can go ahead and move on to Get a Life, Chloe Brown by Talia Hibbert. I'm so excited to kind of get more into this one. I'm already about an hour into the audiobook, and I went to press play just a second ago to like get back into it, and I'm obviously not in public right now, but you know the like memes about being in public, the like raunchy part of a audiobook comes on, that definitely just happened to me. Very explicit scene. Was not prepared for that. Don't have that much to say about this book so far, I guess maybe because I'm not that far into it, but it is good, and I'm liking that it is, I'm gonna say, developed. Basically, I have read a Talia Hibbert book before, but it wasn't a whole book. It was a novella. It was a Christmas novella specifically, and I really liked it, and I thought it was really steamy. However, I didn't feel like the relationship was developed enough, and it kind of makes sense given that it was a novella. This one, I'm excited to see how she is able to develop a relationship over the course of like an actual book, and I've heard nothing but good things, so I'm sure this is going to be excellent. So far, I'm really liking it. I like Red a lot, and I like his attitude, I guess. He's very grumpy, and I'm just very curious to see how his relationship with Chloe develops. After I drink my milkshake, which I'm about to go make, I will update you guys a little bit more on what the plot of this book is, how I'm enjoying it, but I also kind of want to get a little bit further in. So milkshake, I'm gonna read more, and then I will get back to you guys. Okay, I had my milkshake. It was delicious. I thought I'd update you guys on Get a Life, Chloe Brown. My hair, I need to wash it. All right, let's not talk about it. We're not talking about it. We are talking about Get a Life, Chloe Brown. I am very much enjoying this. I think this might be, I don't want to be too bold here, the book that I have the most good feelings towards initially. Maybe because this one I think was published in 2019, and it is one that like I heard a lot of buzz about and now I hear less about. That being said, a lot of you guys recommended this one, but I'm just really enjoying it. It is about Chloe Brown, shockingly enough, and she just moved out of her family home into her own apartment, and she's kind of dealing with that and also her chronic pain, which is definitely something that comes up quite a bit in this book. She is trying to get a life. She has been very comfortable in her existence, and now she wants to finally get out there and do just a ton of the things that she hasn't done in her life, and one of those is doing her neighbor. And her neighbor, and or like the not landlord, he's the superintendent. He like does repairs and stuff around Chloe's building. He has asked Chloe to make a website for him for his artwork, so she's kind of getting to know him so she can make this website for him, and she also just kind of like wants to bone him. Feelings are very much mutual, so I'm really enjoying that. I also love that this is dual POV. I didn't know that going into this story, and it's actually pretty rare in my opinion for traditionally published romances to be dual POV, and I think that honestly, wow, okay, I just had like a brain blast, but I really think that's the reason why I don't like most traditionally published romance. I feel like the heroes are never well fleshed out because they don't have their own point of view. So I'm loving that this one has both points of view, and I just love both of the characters. I think they're both definitely complex, and yeah, they're great. This is really cute. I don't know where it's going though. I've only ever heard about the synopsis from people. I haven't like intentionally avoided spoilers, but I feel like I just don't really know where this story is heading. So I'm excited to see. I mean, it's a romance. It's not going to be like wild, I'm sure, but I'm curious to see what the development of the relationship looks like, because now they're not like enemies to lovers, but Red thinks Chloe is a little bit stuck up and Chloe thinks he's a little bit grumpy. So curious to see how they kind of resolve their issues, but it's fun. That being said, I told myself that I was going to try to read all 3 of these books today because I'm stupid. Instead, what I think I'm going to do is wash my hair so you guys don't have to look at this anymore. And I think tomorrow morning I'm going to go ahead and knock this book out and then read The Poet X, which I don't think is going to be too much of a burden because I mean, it's a short book, right? It's told in verse, and I also have the audio version, which I'm really excited about. I've heard great things about the audio. So anyway, that's kind of where I'm at. I'm gonna go wash my hair because, like I said, no one needs to see this anymore. But good night. I will talk to you guys tomorrow. Okay, so I am about 3/4 of the way done with Get a Life Chloe Brown, and I'm still very much enjoying it. I think this might be my favorite book of this video, and I really did not expect that. I still haven't read The Poet X yet, which I'm sure is going to be a 5-star read, but this one is just perfect in every way. Is that dramatic to say? I mean, there's a few things that are irritating me, but not enough for me to like dock stars. It's just fun. So the story, I think I told you guys earlier that I didn't really know in what direction it was going, but essentially Chloe has teamed up with Red to, I guess, go through this like bucket list she has, this list of things for her to get a life, and we also kind of start figuring out Chloe's past a little bit more. So we open up at the beginning of the book and it was a little confusing to me kind of where she was at and why she was living with her family, and we find out that she hasn't been sick her entire life. She started getting sick a few years back, and a lot of her friends kind of abandoned her. Her fiance didn't understand chronic pain and was not a good person, I guess you could say. So Chloe is basically protecting herself by kind of staying indoors, just sticking with her work and not trying to get out there and meet people. And also she's dealing with this chronic pain, so that kind of makes it difficult to do some of the things that she used to do. So I have just adored the interactions between Chloe and Red because he is so understanding, and you get that from the beginning of the book too, which I like because sure, it's sometimes fun when you have a hero who is sweet only to the heroine, but it's also just nice to know sometimes that like the guy you're with is just a nice person in general, right? Like that's the kind of person that I would look for, and you definitely get that from the first interactions in first chapters, really. Red with some of the tenants in this apartment building and just how sweet and caring he is, and he definitely is the same with Chloe without making her feel like he's a carer or whatever, you know what I mean? And carer, I mean like he's not trying to be her nurse, he's just trying to be respectful and be a good person, and he just really is into her too. I also like that they're so into each other. I was realizing this too because I was reading a paranormal romance recently, but it's so interesting to see how different authors in different genres will play around with that initial attraction, and I just love how instantly attracted these two were to each other. Definitely not insta love or anything, but they definitely are both very physically attracted to each other, which I personally really liked, and it's continuing, and it just makes the sexual tension that much hotter when they do have these sexual encounters. Pretty sure they still have not had sex yet, although they have like kind of fooled around a little bit. So yeah, it's just really, really good and heartwarming, and I don't say heartwarming, that's not the right word. It's clever, it's fun, and I like the banter between the two of them. So overall, I'm just really, really enjoying this. Yeah, I don't know. I really should have like ranked them, I feel like, at the beginning of this video, the books, and said what I thought would have been my favorites. Beach Read I didn't expect to love. House on the Cerulean Sea I expected to love just a little bit more than I did, and this one I kind of expected it to be a 3-star read, not for any particular reason, just I think I, didn't love the novella that I read, so I just sort of unsure of how I would feel about this one, but I'm really, really enjoying it, and I'm really excited too because I'm going to be reading another Talia Hibbert book for another video that I'm doing very soon. I'm very excited about that one, and I think you guys will like it too. It's very romance centric, but yeah, it has me more excited to read that book is all I'm trying to say. So I am gonna go ahead and finish it, and I'll give you guys my final thoughts, but so far so good. Okay. I think I'm gonna stick with my initial say initial rating. What I told you guys last time, this is a 5-star read. It was so cute. I really appreciated at the end of the book how much focus was put on each character's insecurities. I feel like a lot of people go into relationships with insecurities, and that's things that people have to like work through. And I liked that Red pointed out when they had this kind of like blow up fight that just because you have fights doesn't mean it's like a toxic relationship. It's just growing pains when you guys try to kind of figure out your insecurities and how to work around each other's insecurities and like fears, because relationships are obviously a really vulnerable thing. Being vulnerable is a really big part of opening up and having a successful relationship. So anyway, I really enjoyed it. I think my only complaint is that I don't want to say there were one too many conflicts, but there were two sort of like misunderstandings that happened, and I feel like I personally would have liked it to just be one. I didn't think it was like overdone or anything, but I kind of wanted to just see more of them happy, I guess. And there was a lot of that too, don't get me wrong, but I think maybe cutting out one of the two conflicts would have made it a little bit better for me. But that being said, it was still a 5-star read. I mean, this is a great book, and like I said, I'm even more excited to try Get a Hint, Danny Brown? I don't know. I'm really excited about it. I love series 2 where it focuses on like a different sister and like her romantic relationship. Like each book in this series is obviously the same, you know, like one sister, different sister. I don't know why I'm over explaining this. You guys understand what I'm trying to say. Now though, I am gonna go ahead and read The Poet X by Elizabeth Acevedo so we can finish up this video. It is like 2:30 and I want to get this video posted before like nighttime, so let's see if that happens. Okay, so I am 50% into The Poet X by Elizabeth Acevedo. I got the titles of her books confused in my head for a second, but I'm really enjoying this just like I had expected to. I think what I'm starting to realize about Elizabeth Acevedo's books is that I really prefer her books told in verse. I just feel like I connect with them on a deeper level, and I feel like there's just certain poems on each page or like chapter. I don't know. I just want to like bookmark everything. So many of the things I connect with. Every line is so poignant, so loving that. Not that I didn't enjoy With the Fire on High, but I just didn't feel as connected to that book as I do with Clap When You Land and The Poet X. So it's a really good story. So our main character Xiomara is navigating her way through high school, trying to grapple with her mother's Catholic religion, and I guess technically Xiomara is Catholic as well, and then also with the fact that she is trying to figure out her body, her relationship with men, and her, I guess, future. You know, she is only a freshman, I think, and she has a passion for poetry. She has a twin brother. It's a very slice of life story, kind of like Clap When You Land, which I'm really enjoying, and I mean, it's just beautifully told. I feel like I relate to a lot of the things that are being told in this book, even if I don't necessarily, you know, relate to everything, obviously, because I'm not Dominican, but the story is so good. I can totally understand why people like this, and I think that there are a lot of universal themes in this book that I feel like a lot of different people could relate to, so it makes sense that so many of you guys recommended this one to me. My camera is dying, however, though, so I think I'm going to save the rest of my thoughts for after I finish, but I will be back in like 30 minutes. Okay, so I finished The Poet X by Elizabeth Acevedo, and of course this is a 5-star read. I really enjoyed it. I definitely teared up at one particular like pivotal moment, but overall I really stand by what I said previously. I feel like this book is just that perfect slice of life. I feel like it is pretty universally relatable, although I'm sure there are some things that I couldn't possibly understand as like a white woman, but the things that I did relate to and could understand I really adored, and I think this is an important book for so many reasons, and I definitely understand why it has won so many awards. I don't know, I just loved the self-discovery that Xiomara kind of goes through, and how not everything was perfectly resolved either. Obviously her relationship with her mother was pretty complicated, and although Xiomara's mother did become kind of supportive near the end of the book, you could tell that not everything was resolved, and I felt like that was really realistic given all of the things that had happened in the book. So I don't know, it was just a really great read. I really liked it. I think this might be my favorite Elizabeth Acevedo book. I think I'm gonna say that, yeah. I think it is. But that was the last book that I needed to get done for this video. I finished 4 books, had mixed feelings about them, but overall I feel like this was a really fun reading experience, and I feel like I do have some new favorites. Are they all-time favorites? I don't know about that, but they're definitely new favorites of the year, so thank you to everyone who recommended these books to me. I guess we can do a quick recap. The first book that I read was Beach Read by Emily Henry. Gave this one 3 stars, really disappointing, but ultimately not the worst thing ever. The second book that I read was The House in the Cerulean Sea by TJ Klune, which I gave 4 stars, and this one was really heartwarming. I think in hindsight it was maybe a little bit disappointing to me, not for any one particular reason. I
it didn't grip me like I really wanted it to. But again, I'm like going to reread it and hopefully it'll be a 5-star the second time around. The third book that I read was Get a Life, Chloe Brown, which I gave 5 stars. This one was probably my favorite of the 4 that I read for this video. Honestly, this might be an all-time favorite book for me. All-time favorite romance. It was just so well done and handled topics that I had never really seen before, I think, in romance, like chronic pain, guys who had been through a lot. I'm not trying to spoil it. I guess, you know what, abuse is not a spoiler though. I'd never seen a guy who had been in a previously abusive and toxic relationship in a romance, so that was also nice to see. I'm not saying that it's nice to see a guy in a bad relationship, but it's nice to see that representation in books. That's what I'm trying to say. Wow. Anyway, great book, 5 stars, really enjoyed it. And then obviously the Codex I also gave 5 stars. Really great book. I think it's probably not an all-time favorite for me, primarily because I'm not that age demographic anymore. I did relate to a lot of the things in this book, but I think it would have really impacted me like in high school or late middle school. So anyway, I can't thank you guys enough for giving me all of these great recommendations. I'm really glad that I got to read these books for this video. I'll definitely be doing more of these sorts of things going forward, so give me a follow on Instagram so you guys can know whenever I am asking for, you know, new recommendations for books. I actually just asked you guys recently what your favorite romances are, and I'm gonna be reading some of those soon. So anyway, thanks so much for watching. I love you guys so much, and until next time.